Okay, and then the second thing I want to do is I'm going to give this a whirl. So let's go, I'm going to go create a new test case. And let's see, this one was the, what did I say? Well, okay. Create new ticket. And here is a little more traditional. So to kind of go through this workflow, you're going to have a good understanding of what the UI is going to look like coming down from the developers. So I know that let's see, what do? We launch Explorer. Let's navigate to, I'm not going to write the whole URL here. Navigate to the website, click create. Let's see. Let's just call it enter. Now let's be more granular. Enter. What was it? Something like a title. Select escalation. Enter a description. Assign a customer. Assign it to the customer. Finally, click create. Then let's do go to dashboard. And then for my expected result, here's where I want to see the new ticket exists. Okay, so clearly there was a lot more typing on my part, certainly, to use this sort of workflow versus the exploratory testing. The second thing, and maybe even more important, is I had to get with the developer, figure out what they were kind of planning to do so that I could even go in and get started. And if they went off the path at all, this test case is going to be invalid. You're going to have to come in and edit it and all that sort of stuff. So not a huge deal, but I just think the whole exploratory testing workflow is a little bit better. So I'm going to save and close this. No, let's associate this with, let's link it to product backlog item, which was soup, not bugs. Just 1 sec here. Oh man, just not quite used to the UI here. Oh, you know what's wrong. So let's see, test case 2, let's save it, close it. I'm going to go back to my create ticket 660. There we go. I had the wrong association there. Okay. So now when we go to the test plan, if I look at my create new ticket, it didn't show up. So I even messed up the association there. Apologize for that. Okay, so now if I want to go run this thing, I'm going to go into my testing, run tests, I create new ticket, I'm going to say run, and again, if we see the same kind of performance issues we saw with exploratory testing, I'm going to bail out of this pretty quick. Okay, so this time I'm going to create an action recording. Okay, I'm going to just kind of abort all the test manager. So what I wanted to show you here was when you create an action recording, it's going to go through and record all of those actions within my steps. Within my steps over here under the play. And then what you can do as you're executing this test case over and over again is you can actually go fast forward through all those steps. So that's pretty cool. Just in that if you've got 30 steps or something like that, or things that take a long time, and your validation is one of the last steps, you can just highlight the first 15 or whatever steps that you want, hit play, let the tool go through all the weighting and all that stuff for you, and then when it comes time to validate, you can just interact with the validation then. I'm going to get out of here. I apologize for that. So, okay, in any case, that's kind of a typical manual testing workflow using Test Manager. Okay, that went well. The next thing I want to talk about now then is coded UI tests. And there's several different flavors of coded UI tests. I want to show you, time permitting, I want to show you about 3 of them. I used a lot more time on the Test Manager than I wanted to, but time permitting, I want to kind of show you 3 of the 5 or so that I'm going to talk about. So coded UI testing in general, regardless of the technique, when do you want to use it? Again, this is similar to Test Manager in that it's black box testing. You're testing the UI. You don't need to have intimate knowledge of what's going on at a code level to do a good job of testing and writing coded UI tests. You want to do this. It's expensive to do from a time standpoint. It's not easy. So you're going to want to do this when you want to run tests multiple times, obviously. And when you don't want to do this, again, this coded UI testing uses the same tools underneath as Test Manager, so it's got the same constraints as Test Manager as far as what sorts of applications you can test against. Obviously, it's not going to work for testing applications with user interface, and it's not at all good for load testing. And I've got an asterisk there because I want to mention it is possible to use coded UI tests as a part of a load test, but it's really impractical. The reason it's impractical is that a coded UI test has to interact with the desktop to be able to perform. So therefore, if you include this with a load test, you need an agent per virtual user that you're trying to load. So if you're trying to set up a load test with just 100 users, not many in a lot of applications, just 100 users, that means you need 100 virtual machines or physical machines running agents that are executing the coded UI test. So it's really impractical. Possible, but impractical. Okay, so the first kind of coded UI test is a single UI map. And this is kind of, if you do a lot of the walkthroughs and demos and you see sort of the 5 minutes, what's a coded UI test look like, this is what they're doing. These single UI maps are good for small teams. They're good for stable applications, and they're good for simpler apps. But I don't recommend using them very often, and the reason is this. It'll make a little more sense when I drop into Visual Studio and show you what a coded UI map looks like. The coded UI map will get really unwieldy if you've got a large application. I mean, thousands of lines of code. Second thing is, if you're using a single coded UI map and you're recording actions, you're going to have to check that file out from version control. And if you've got another teammate that's also trying to work on that same application, they're going to be trying to interact with that same UI map, and this UI map is generated, so it doesn't work. You'd both be doing multiple checkouts. You'd have to merge it. The UI map regenerates itself under various circumstances, so it's just not going to work. So really, the only time this works well, as I said, if you've got a small team, if you're a single QA working on a smaller app, it's going to be just fine, or maybe even a medium-sized app. The second thing is, if it's a relatively stable application, what I mean by that is if the user interface isn't changing a whole lot, you can make changes, move things around, nest them a little differently, that sort of thing. And a lot of times the UI map is still going to work. But if you're early in a project and you're changing the way the user interface looks drastically, you're wasting your time. The second option here is the coded UI test with multiple UI maps. I recommend using this far more often. It'll work for larger teams because now what you can do is divide the work up into pages or controls if you want to. QA person 1 is working on the create page, and QA person 2 might be working on the edit employee page, and that's going to be fine. You're not going to have a bunch of version control collisions because you're fighting for the same UI map resource. Same constraints though. If you are trying to write the coded UI test too early in the process and the UI is changing a lot, your tests are going to be breaking constantly. You're going to be spending a lot of time re-recording activities and that sort of thing. So again, it's favor this far more over the single UI map, but just beware. If the UI is changing a lot, you're probably jumping the gun a little bit trying to use this.